Okay, so here we are back in the workshop. We're going to get everything ready and set up on the bench. We're going to get our 12 volt Chinese diesel heater, connect it to a battery, get some fuel into it, and do a test run, check out all the functions, see how it works, see what kind of heat output we get, and have a look and see what sort of fuel consumption we get out of the heater. So stay tuned, and here we go. Okay, so first things first, we want to get the heater connected up. So we're going to mount it on the bench. We've got our battery power here, 13 volts. I've connected obviously the positive to the positive terminal of the battery, negative to the negative terminal battery. The heater does come, it's fused. So it's fused with a 20 amp fuse, 40 watts, 12 volts, 20 amps is perfectly adequate to protect the heater. It says 40 watts, which is probably quite a lot. It's probably just the pump, but I know that the glow plug inside, that when the glow plug engages, it does draw a bit more power. So that fuse is designed to protect that. So let's get this all set up and see how we get on. So first things first, we've got an exhaust and an air inlet. Now in the manual you can mount this either this way or 90 degrees, this way or 90 degrees, but what you cannot do is mount it upside down. So obviously when we're installing this in the van, we're going to have it mounted with the exhaust inlet and fuel supply pointing downwards. But what I actually want to do is I want to mount it sideways here on the bench for the purpose of testing it. So we'll get that mounted up and ready to go. So we have our exhaust. Our exhaust is on this end. We've got a little Jubilee clip, so we'll just pop on the exhaust. I'm going to angle it up slightly so that when it's on the bench, it's not hitting the deck. So tighten that one up. Just make sure it stays in the position we want it to. It's fine, and then there's a little silencer here that attaches onto it. Now I said in the introduction video I thought this was quite small and dinky, but let's see how it performs in regards to sound. So I'm just going to pop this here. We have our connection, so we put our air inlet, so we're going to need a Jubilee clip for that. Pop a little Jubilee clip on that just to keep it nice and stable. Make a nice good tight seal so that when it's running, we've got all the air coming directly in from here through the little air filter. This is going to be mounted underneath the vehicle. So we'll put it under our van and we'll route the exhaust somewhere where it's out of the way and it's not going to affect anybody. Another interesting thing is the exhaust gets quite hot, so you don't want to have it in a position where anybody passing by might accidentally go past the end of it and maybe get a scald. Probably wouldn't get it burned, but might get a scald, and we want to avoid that. Our air inlet. So the heater comes with basically a control panel. That control panel is connected to the wiring loom. It's very, very simple. I'll plug it in, I'll show it to you, give you guys a good look at it. So we've got our main supply. I've got our voltmeter rigged up here. So we'll collect this guy here. We've got a fuel pump and a fuel pump mount. These fuel pumps can be a little bit noisy. They're a diaphragm pump, so they pulse, so they click, click, click. So in order to stop that, they come with this quite good rubber mount. The purpose of this mount is to basically reduce the vibration. I've also noticed, you can see I've put an arrow on that. That's the direction of the fuel flow. When I unboxed it, I obviously just went through it on the bench to test it, and one of the problems was I had the fuel pump around the wrong way. So a handy thing to do is just put a little arrow on the fuel pump so you know what fuel direction it's pumping in, because there's no indication on the fuel pump itself what way the fuel flows. So we have our fuel pump. We've got some fuel line, so I'm just going to connect the fuel line into the fuel inlet on the heater itself. Now, so I've already connected the fuel pump. These are clip connectors. They literally just pop out. So basically like a spring clip, and that pops out. So back that on. Now, I would normally Jubilee clip these on, but because it's just being tested on the bench, there's absolutely no need to put the Jubilee clips on. It's quite a low pressure system. There's not a lot of power coming out of it. And then we have an outlet for our heat. We'll just pop that on there. These just push on. Okay, this is the fuel tank that comes with it. I'm actually not going to use the fuel tank. As you can see, I've got a very high-tech fuel storage device. And I've got a clamp just to stop the fuel line popping out of it. Now, I'm using kerosene in this heater. They say they're diesel or kerosene. One of the things that we do is we look after space heaters. And the thing about space heaters is they'll run on diesel or kerosene. But because diesel has detergents and it has an oil in them to lubricate fuel injector pumps in cars, machineries, all that kind of stuff, it's more oily. I always find that kerosene burns much cleaner. It's a much purer fuel. Interesting point of fact, most jet aircraft that fly throughout the world all run on kerosene. The same stuff you run your home heating oil. It's a slightly more refined, higher octane version, but it is effectively kerosene. So, here we go. Just attach a Jubilee clip onto that just to keep it pointing upwards. I have the shed doors open, the workshop doors are open. So this, even though it's exhausting, it's not going anywhere because the shed door is open. These come with some nice little vents. They just pop in, and they're directional adjustments. So when we're going to put it in the camper van, we're going to get a couple of these and put it in. Now, so we connect up our digital display, which is our thermostatic control. There are basically 3 wires going to it. Plug it in. We have power. So the clock is set to 0. There's a load of different functions on this that I'm going to go through when we install it in the camper van. But for the meantime, here we are. That's our digital display and that's our remote control. We have fuel. We have power. So if I press the OK button, gives us the current temperature in here, which is 12 degrees, a balmy 12 degrees centigrade in the workshop. Now, this is our pump frequency, which is basically our pump speed. And then we've got 12.7 volts. So that's a very quick ready reckoner to go through and see where we're at. Now, first things first, before you connect the heater, we need to prime the fuel pump. And how we prime the fuel pump is if we press OK and down and let OK. So we've got HOF, which means off. So we want to prime the fuel pump so that when the heater starts, it gets fuel straight away. And we just press up to go on. And you'll hear the fuel pump ticking away. Visually, the fuel filter gives me an idea. Oh. Can we see fuel coming in yet? No. So now here we go. You see the fuel starting to come in at the bottom of the fuel filter. It's a nice clear plastic filter. So we can see the fuel coming up. So maybe if we put that back there, we might be able to see that better on the camera. Takes a bit of time. There's also a timeout on these, so beware that if the fuel pump cuts out, the H will go on the display where it's saying on now and it's flashing. If you go back to off, just reset it. So these are quite slow. The fuel pump has picked up speed. It's pumping away and the level is slowly rising inside that. I think we'll fast forward this bit. It's going to now start pumping. Now, that's the bit I was talking about. It stopped. So we want to turn it on again because I don't think that's fully primed. So turn it back off, turn it back on again, and it'll pump away. Okay, so press OK. We're back. We have our heating on for 4 minutes. There's many different ways of switching this on. The simplest, most straightforward way of switching this heater on is pressing the on button. Initially, when it starts off, we get the glow plug and we get some unburned fuel coming out through the exhaust. And then you'll hear the heater kick in and the heat starting to build. So let's turn it on and see what happens. Okay, so now we're going to press the on button and see what happens. On button is on, click from inside the heater. Okay, we've got the fan starting. We've got our 12.9 volts currently from the battery. So, fan is started. Nothing else is happening. Yeah, there we go. So we've got some initial exhaust coming out of the heater. And you can see that. We don't have a fuel pump engaged yet. Okay, so the fuel pump's kicked in. So we're about to ignite, so you can see the exhaust fumes from the exhaust. Okay, now the exhaust is starting to run. So we can hear some combustion. Got a little bit of smoke. Fuel pump is running nicely. So we want to turn up the heat in the fuel. All we basically do is go up and down, and that changes the amount of fuel that goes into the heater, which increases the temperature. Okay, so the fuel pump now is starting to speed up. You'll notice our exhaust gases are starting to get clear. So I've got a light here to give us an idea of how clean these burn. Very, very little fumes at all. Fumes are running even clearer, and now you can see actually no fumes whatsoever. So we're getting really, really good combustion inside the heater. This is rated at 5 kilowatts. Let's see what our temperature range is. We've got warm air coming out of here already. The fan is increased. I'm just going to put a temperature probe on it. So nice and black. We've got 27 degrees. You can hear the fan is sucking in. On our display, if we can see here, so down the bottom we've got 2 green lights, 2 yellow lights and a red light. So that means we're nearly up to full speed or full heat. We've been running for 10 minutes. So I can increase the pump speed 3.794 hertz. So it goes up to a maximum of 5.5. So that's full heat, full speed. So we had 27 degrees. 27.7 degrees was our last heat. A couple of minutes have expired, we'll check it again. We've 34 degree heat coming out of here. It's really, really warm. And also if you look on the exhaust, there is no fumes whatsoever coming out of the exhaust. Let me try and zoom in on that. Nothing coming out of the exhaust. Beautiful. We're now 11 minutes into the time we've powered up, primed the pump, and got some heat coming out. So we were at 34.8. So now we have 43.5, 51, 52 degrees. Wow. 54. This heater landed at the door was 115 euros. We're going to put this in the Campervan because one of the main things that we were considering about, we're going to do a lot of our van touring hopefully. A lot of it's going to be in Ireland. We're going to try and get out to Spain and France and places like that. But at the minute we're going to do a lot of our van touring here within Ireland. And in Ireland, unfortunately, the weather is never as predictable as we'd like, and it can get quite chilly at night time. So in order to allow us to be able to go through, you know, late season and early season camping, we want to be able to make sure that we're warm at night time. So we bought this heater. The link in the description below. From eBay. There's a couple of different prices on it. There's a 2 kilowatt version, there's a 5 kilowatt version, and there was an 8 kilowatt version. I was tempted to get the 8 kilowatt version, but just with the heat coming off this, and the amount of heat that's coming off it, for the van, I'm not entirely sure that, it's warm. Now, obviously, because that's warm, there's going to be a lot of ducting through it, so it's going to get cooled down. But here we go, 54, and then all the way up to here, we have 50, 40, 41, 46. The things we can do with this heater is we can set a thermostat on it, so that it kicks in and kicks out at a preset temperature. You know, from cold to hot in 10 minutes. Most household domestic heating supplies probably wouldn't do that, so this is really, really good. I'm going to turn down the pump speed to minimum. I'm going to turn down to 5 or 4. You'll hear the fan start to quiet down. It also comes with a remote control. I can turn this up and down with the remote control. So, turning it down to 3. Things start to quieten down. Now, most microphones on recording devices, I'm using my phone and a DSLR camera. It's a Nikon D3200. Most of them will pick up the background noise as quite noisy. It's not noisy. I haven't had to shout to be overheard by it. I don't have a lapel mic. I'm just using the standard mics off the phone. I do have one. I just need a recording device to sync the audio through for the videos, but that's not part of this. But as you can hear now, it started to quieten down. Our temperatures, we still have quite a lot of heat coming out of here. It'll also be quite handy if I tighten this a little bit better. Yeah, 55, 53 degrees. Now, this is a shiny surface. Let's go for the matte on the outside. Yeah, according to this guy, this is 60 degrees. Yeah, 60 degrees. It's hot air. Now, bearing in mind the van we have, it's a Peugeot Boxer L4H2, so it's the medium roof. It's not the high roof, but it's the extra long wheelbase. So there's a 4 meter bed in it, so 4,030 millimeters. So it's actually really, really good, because the amount of heat that's coming out of this, we were figuring about where we were going to put ducting in the van. We weren't really sure, and now I'm not, just based on the amount of heat coming down. Now that's on low. I don't know whether anybody's noticed or not, that the fuel in this hasn't dropped. So I'm going to turn this right down. So 1.6 is our lowest pump speed. I'm going to leave it settle down. I'm going to get it as running for about 5 minutes. Let everything cool down, and then we'll take some more temperature readings. Going to the back of the book for the technical specifications of the heater. It claims to use on full power 640 milliliters of fuel in an hour. So 0.64 of a liter. But on low level, which is the lowest power we have setting here, according to this, 0.11 of a liter, 110 milliliters of fuel an hour. So that means basically on a liter of fuel, it will run for approximately 9 hours. That's very, 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 very efficient. So it comes with a 10-litre tank. So a 10-litre tank, doing some very quick maths in my head, at 9 hours for 1 litre, so 10 hours, that's 90 hours of heat on 90 hours. That's incredible. Now obviously on full, that's 6, so we divide that by 6, 6 nights, so that's 15 hours of at full heat. It'll run for 15 continuous hours. You're never going to have it on full heat, maybe just initially to bring it up. With the thermostatic control, it's going to kick in, it's going to kick out, so I think this is going to be an absolutely fantastic heater. It really is, it's just absolutely unbelievable. So, I'll leave it run here for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see what sort of temperatures we've got coming out of our vent. But this is low heat. If you just have a listen, it's very, very quiet. So, let's see what our temperature is like. Okay, so we've been running now for about 5 or 6 minutes on minimum temperature. So we have coming out of our pipe 29.9. So we've got a nice ambient temperature working away there. Okay, so this is definitely going in our campervan. So much so that it's going in the campervan, and I'm really pleased with it. I'm really impressed with it. It'll be interesting to see how we have a real world test. Even at the price that we've paid for it, some of the more expensive heaters, no, it's not coronavirus, but other different types of heaters run 700, 800, 900 pounds. This heater, again, €115 delivered to the door. As a result, even if this lasted me 1 season and failed, I'd be quite happily just to throw it out and buy a new one and put it in. Now, hopefully that's not going to be the case. Let's have a look, see, this is popping away here. So, remote control button, we're in bed, we want to turn the heating off. Our pump is slowed down to an almost stop. Our fan is sped up, so what this is doing, it's doing a purge cycle, so it's making sure that there's no unburned fuel left inside. Pump has come to a stop, fan is still running, little bit of exhaust. Now, we also have our display here, so we can see in the cool down cycle. Well, hopefully you guys can see. So here we are. So we've got 2 red, 2 yellow, and 2 kind of bluey green lights. But basically what they're going to do is they're going to start going down as we're in the cool down cycle. So we can see our fan is still running. We can hear our exhaust purging. That's our last puff. I think we've completely purged down, so our cooling fan is running. Now, as you can see, the lights are starting to drop. So it means we're in cool down, and when the system is cooled down enough, the power will just switch off and it's ready to be restarted. Okay guys, so if you missed part 1, which was the unboxing, there's the link to the video. So, I hope you enjoyed watching. Thumbs up, maybe give me a like. I'd love you to subscribe, and if you've got any comments or questions about the heater setup or our camper van, please ask them in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.